Hi everybody. Hope that I'm finding everybody in good health today. We are getting ready to run out to what we call the meat market. Steve ordered 40 pounds of chicken breast. It's skinless, boneless, and we are going to be canning that this evening. I promised a few of you that I would do an in-depth, detailed canning session. So anybody else out there that's already expert canners and you know what you're doing, you can go ahead and watch if you want. Or if you are brand new at canning and you want to learn everything, I have an all-American canner, and 921 I believe is the number on it. So that's what I'm going to be using today, and hang out with us. Just left the meat market.
I got 40 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breast and 4.74 pounds of hamburger. I got all the hamburger that they had there, so.
All the fresh?
Yeah, so nobody else couldn't get any for a while.
Well, they didn't have frozen hamburger?
Well, they might have had frozen. I didn't look at that, but the fresh, that's all they had.
All right, to start off with, my sweet husband, as he always does. Want to turn around and say hi, honey?
Hi, honey.
He always cuts the chicken up for me. Oh, that's perfect.
That's one 10-pound bag.
Okay, so
we got 3 more to do.
30 more pounds. Before we get started, I just wanted to give you guys a few safety reminders. Now, I have an all-American canner. I'll bring you over here so you can see. This does not have the rubber ring that a lot of that a lot of canners have. But what you can do is, let me set this up here. I'm trying to hold the camera too. Put a little bit of olive oil right around the rim there. You can see that is kind of indented down there. That's what I do. And that way it just makes it easier going on and off. Another thing that you want to do is the dial stays on these canner lids. So I always store the lid upside down on the canner. And that way this doesn't get bumped or hit. But before you start canning, you want to make sure that the little plug here is intact and in good shape. That's an emergency plug if something would happen and the heat would keep building up and it would explode. This is an emergency thing, so it would come out here first. And this is the vent. So you want to make sure that the vent is clear before you start canning every single time. So you just hold it up to the light, take a look through it, and if it's clear, you're ready to go. If not, just use some type of maybe a needle or something to clean it out. All right, also, let me put these up so you can see my eyes. You can use any of your jars, no matter how old they are, if they are canning jars. I have some brand new ones here that we're going to be using, the Ball Mason jars. And I mean, I've got lots of old ones in the basement, but I thought this would be easier right today because all I have to do is wash them out with soap and water really well. A thing that I learned that you don't have to make sure that they're sterilized if you're going to be cooking anything like meat and stuff in them, because in a quart jar, you cook your meat, pressure can your meat, I should say, for 90 minutes. So that should take care of anything that would be like bacteria. Plus, we're going to use raw chicken. So there would be no sense in sterilizing the jar if I'm putting raw chicken in it, right? So, yep, I'm going to get those all washed with soap and water, and we'll start packing the chicken. Anytime that you open up a new box, save your box, because it's so much easier once you get everything canned to put it right back in here, safekeeping. All right, so I've got my jars all cleaned and washed really good with soap and water. So what we're going to do now, got my chicken cut up. This is 20 pounds. We've got another 20 to do after this, but no sense in cutting it all up right now. And the jars are clean. We're going to put 1 teaspoon of canning salt into each one of these. You can also use regular salt if you don't have any canning salt. All right, I'm using the pink Himalayan salt, sea salt. If you want to put any type of herbs and stuff, you can feel free to do that also at this time. But you know, I did that one time and I didn't really care for it. I just like the plain chicken. So that's what we kind of stick with. So I just use one of these little plastic funnel things just so it doesn't get the outside of the rim so dirty. We're going to wipe it off anyway, but just to be on the safe side, we'll just use this. And we are going to fill this up without pressing it in too much. Just kind of give it a good shake on the counter. And then you can also use, I use a butter knife to go along the sides of it to make sure that you get all the air bubbles and stuff out of here. Trying to get in the camera. There we go. So yeah, that's what we'll do when I get them all filled. I'll take a butter knife and show you. So let's go ahead and get this going. So we've got the chicken in the jars. What we're going to do next is, I have some white vinegar in this cup. I'm going to use a paper towel and go around the rims of all the jars. And the reason is, we want those bands, the lids, to stick really, really well. Might have to get you a couple paper towels for this. They don't have to be dry, they just have to be greasy free. And chicken has its own natural grease, so that's why we're going to do that. I already washed the bands and the lids right here. And then you want your lids to be in, not like boiling, but super, super hot water. Rubber band here. And you want that to be hot enough that once it starts canning, you want that to be hot enough to actually seal really well. Ooh, that's hot. They gave us an extra little lid. That's a good thing. That never happens. Alright, then what we're going to do is put the bands on. Make sure you start them off right. And just finger tight. Whoops, I clicked that one off. Just finger tight, not super hard, just finger tight. No liquid is added when you're doing raw chicken because the chicken will make its own juice. And get these out of the way so I can do these. I'm only doing 7 at a time. My canner only does 7 quarts, and it also can do quite a few of the little pints, but for the chicken we use the quart size. It's perfect for a good meal or a casserole even. Perfect size for that. Alright, here's my canner, and what we do is I got 2 of these. And the second one is if you're doing pints, you would set some on here, put the other lid thing, this thing on top, and then be able to put another set of pint jars. But for the quarts, we only need the one. You want it in the bottom because you want that, you don't want your quart jar sitting right on the metal of the canner. They would get way too hot then. We have really hard water here at the house. So I always put in a big splash of vinegar. The vinegar will keep your jars from getting so much of a white coating on them once they get done canning. So that's what I do, and then we'll add some water in there. I'm gonna add just a little bit more. Okay, let's put the jars in, and then we'll see if I need to add some more water into the canner. So I've got my canner already on, it's on high. Yeah, I'll add some more water in there. I like them to go up a couple inches on the jars. I should have showed you guys getting all of the air bubbles out of there, but... And this one, like I said, will hold 7. That's perfect. Okay, right here on the lid, see that arrow? And then there is a mark on the canner. So you're gonna wanna turn your canner until you find the mark. And the mark is right here. See that? All right, we're gonna start by putting that arrow right where that mark is, okay? And it's kind of wobbly, you have to just kind of play with it a little bit. And then you see right here, it's a little hook. You're gonna turn so that it's latched in underneath of this hook, okay? So once that's done, we're gonna start putting up these little sealers. Just don't put them on super tight yet, just kind of place them up there, screw them so they're not gonna fall down, until we get them all up, and then we'll go around and tighten them up. Okay? Start tighten them. And you want them, you know, pretty tight. Okay, that part's done. You have to check your own altitude level, and here where we live at in Ohio, this is one of the pressure gauges. This is gonna go all the way up to the top at 15. All right, so what we're going to do first is, and stop this and take notes if you guys want to can, that's how I learned. So what we're going to do is, this vent over here is going to start venting out. Once the steam starts rising and all the pressure starts coming up out of the canner, it's going to vent from here. So once this starts venting, you want to set a timer for 10 minutes. It has to vent 10 minutes, and that's in all pressure canners. You want them to vent 10 minutes, okay? All right, we're going to stop the camera, let this start venting, and I'll be back. Now, if you're going to be canning like green beans, I'll do another video on that one, but those jars, you will have to sterilize those, and I'll explain all that in the next video when I do the canning of the green beans from the garden. All right, see that steam coming out? Look up by the chicken, you can see it up there. We're going to set the timer for 10 minutes, and once it gets done steaming, I'll show you what's next. Alright, you can see the pressure gauge is going up. Almost, that's probably about an 8. Can't tell with unless I get closer. But the steam's coming out really well. See that? Kind of hard to tell, but oh, there you can see it really well. So what's happening is all the steam is coming out of the pressure canner, and once that steam gets out, that's when we'll put the gauge on there, and I'll turn down the heat. Now, if you are not used to your stove, you're gonna have to really babysit your pressure canner the first few times. But where I've done it so often, once I put on the weight, the gauged weight, I know that my stove is gonna have to be turned down to about 6 and stay there. And it should keep the pressure right even up at 15 pounds. And that way, I'll start timing once I put that gauge on. We'll time it for 90 minutes. All raw meat in a quart-sized jar has to be in a canner, pressure canner, for 90 minutes. And if you use a pint jar, it's 75 minutes. All right, the vent has been venting for 10 minutes. So now we're going to put the weight on. And like I said, check for where you live at, where we live at, the altitude. I have to use it on 15 pounds pressure. I know a lot of people, all the videos that you might have watched, they use 10. So check where you live at, the altitude. So put that on 15. And that steam's hot, so you can use tongs or something to put that on. All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to turn down the heat, like I said, down to 6. And now it's going to allow the pressure to start building up in the canner. And we're going to watch the gauge here very closely because we don't want that over the 15 mark. Now, if you have the gauged weight and your altitude says you're to put it on the 10-pound pressure, then you're going to make sure that this doesn't go over the 11-pound, okay? Check out videos, check out books. The Ball Canning book is a great option to read and study on. And yeah, it's going to leak a little bit around the edge, and that's just the water that is in there. And then I was going to tell you too, when you sew this up, this in between here, the rim, you want that to be kind of as close to level as you can get it. I forgot to tell you that. I also wanted to tell you guys that before you put everything away, let's see if you can see this. Yeah. All right, this was chicken that we did in November of last year. And that's why we didn't put any water in the chicken that we just put in the pressure canner, is because chicken will make its own juice. So that's a great thing. So just salt and chicken. But make sure that you always write on the cap at least the month and the year that you made it, just in case you forget, or if something would happen to you and someone else needed the food, you would have when it was good. So these green beans I just canned day before yesterday, and the band is still on it. So what I like to do, because you don't need the band is only there to keep it in place while you're canning it. So you can actually take the band off and you can use that again. And then I like to wipe the lids and around before you store them, and that way it's not going to go off. It's sealed on there really well. If it wouldn't seal, of course the food would spoil and you would see mold and stuff in there. But I like to wash them off well, just so if there would be anything on the outside of the rim, that it would be clean and would not mold. So I did not write the date on these. Was that the 20th?
Yes.
So that is July. Let's put 7, 20. 20.
So now people just think July 20th or July 2020.
Yeah. So yeah, those are just some of the green beans. When you can green beans, you do add water. And like I said, you have to sterilize those jars, but we'll do that on another video, okay? I just wanted to show you how easy it is to store them like this. And if you keep your boxes back here, you can keep those like that to store in. I kind of stay close to the stove area when I'm canning until the pressure has reached the limit where it needs to be at, and the gauge starts whistling and kind of rocking. The heavyweight gauge that's on there, mine's on for 15 pounds. So I just pull up a kitchen chair, I get comfortable, and kind of sit here and wait for it to reach the mark where it's supposed to be, because once it does, that's when we set our timer for them to can for 90 minutes. So just waiting. It'll happen real soon. Okay, now you can see the pressure gauge over here is up to the 15. This little gauge, can you hear it? It will start making on and off. Here, let me show you. It will start doing that type of a noise on and off. You don't want it constantly doing that. That means the heat is too high. So it's going to do it every, I'm not sure exactly if it's every 30 seconds or every minute, but I like to keep it right about there as long as I know the pressure are at 15 pounds of pressure. So now that that has reached the pressure and the little gauge has been making its rattling noises, we can now start the timer for 90 minutes. Even as I'm canning, I'm watching my husband leading the service at our church. We have an online service going.
The world's getting worse, but it's when Jesus comes back, Brother Dave.
There it is. That's the jiggle that you're going to be hearing a lot of. All right. It's ready. It's on 0. And let's take that off. Start loosening up the You're going to want to also store the jars, or not store them, but lay them down on a dishcloth on a counter and out of the way of any draft. Okay, so when you lift this up, you're going to turn it so that it unlocks this little piece here, and you're going to want to take it up away from your face. See there, because there's still steam in there. All right, lay that down somewhere. There you go, and it is boiling. Oh, okay, thank you, hon. Yeah. Okay. And then when you know that they are sealed is when the lids start popping. I'm not sure why. It must have been that vinegar that caused the lids to have a little bit of black on them. Alright, that's the last one for tonight. Takes a while to get that stuff done. And then to let the pressure canner go, the temperature and all of that go all the way down, pressure. See, I wanted to show you there, that's why we didn't need to add any water, because they've all got all that delicious chicken flavored broth all in there. And there they are. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, I would really, really appreciate it. It would help us a lot. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below, and I would gladly reply to each and every one of them. All right, so these are going to sit out on the counter until the morning, and I will write on the lids and take the bands off, and we'll store them in a dark, cool place. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks again.